Hello everybody, this is Bitcoin Macro, and on this video guys, I'm gonna talk about several stuff. So I'm gonna start with talking about Bitcoin, about this little correction that we've been having recently. Then I'm gonna talk a little bit about stock markets and that correction and how that could affect crypto. And then I'm gonna go into 5 coins, like you already know which ones I'm gonna talk about. And I do believe that they're quite important. Now, not all of them are going to have like those extremely massive rallies, but I would like to go through the charts. I would like to see what their actual potential is and so on. But first, like I said, let's start with Bitcoin. And currently Bitcoin is in a pretty tough situation. I don't really like the spot Bitcoin is in right now, because if we just look at the 50-day moving average and the monthly pivot and the weekly pivot, we see that there has been a pretty significant breakdown of some indicators that usually show direction. Okay, so when the monthly pivot breaks and then gets retested and then goes lower, same for the 50-day moving average, that's a bearish signal. And the fact that this has happened near the volume profile point of control, that's the highest volume area in the highest volume price, which is 56k. Being rejected there is pretty significant. And that also came when the Bitcoin price tried to go a little bit higher from here. It kind of had a little move up on the weekend, then chopped a little bit, then had another attempt. It tried to go into the gap that existed on CME, and I'm going to show you guys which one I'm talking about right now, because it's pretty significant. Okay, when the price tries to go into the gap, and at least it filled half of that gap and it got rejected right there, fairly important. And then we have that extra gap, so we have a double gap. So essentially there was a gap and then another gap. Now most of the gaps have been filled, at least in this area. However, we have an untested area right here, so 40k is important, and we also have 25k and 17k. So there are a lot of areas that haven't been fully tested, and the fact that the 50-day moving average on the actual chart is getting flat, it's a bit of a problem. I don't really like that structure. Now that's not the end of the world. Okay, that doesn't mean that Bitcoin or the bull market is over, but at least in the short term we might get a little bit of extra pain, because again, that's the actual support we have right now, and Bitcoin coming into this area would be relatively healthy. Now going below 47k, I think it's going to go to 40 or 42. So breaking below this, I think it's everything is over, in my opinion at least. So that's the first part that I want to talk about. Then the next one is the fact that some stock markets don't look great. For example, when I look at the Nikkei, the Japanese index, it doesn't look great. And if I just look at the past, at the history, usually when you have such key breakouts, big rallies like this one, then the price tends to come all the way back down to the breakout levels. For example, this chopped in here for years, whereas now we haven't even tested this. So maybe we get all the way down here and then bounce very quickly. But even doing this, it would mean that would be probably a 20% correction, or maybe even less. Let me check. So it will be a 17% correction, just coming to the key level of the breakout. That would be really, really big. Now the same situation holds for many of these other indices. For example, the US stock market, the S&P 500, has been in this trend up, but it has been slowing down a bit, and we've had several corrections like this one in this uptrend, but we haven't had a retest of this area right here. That would be a 4% correction, which definitely wouldn't be impossible at this stage. Now if I look at the Nasdaq, this has already corrected significantly, but I do believe that eventually it will potentially come down here before going higher. Now of course it could come back all the way back to this mega trend. This is the trend that the Nasdaq has been following for years and years and years. That used to be strong resistance, now has broken above, and it's something that I've been noticing for many years. And when a similar thing, not the same, happened in 1999, then every time this trend was retested, then that was going much higher. Okay, so Again, guys, it's a bit tricky because some of these indices, like the Russell 2000, which is looking fairly similar to the Japanese index, the Nikkei, this could lead into a very, very strong correction. So just be careful. Prefer to play them against Bitcoin pairs, no versus USD, because versus USD Bitcoin might go down and might drag them with them, while that alt might do fairly well if you take it on its own. So after talking about the Bitcoin correction and the potential levels that I'm looking at, again, 51 potential support. After that, I would say we're going much lower. Hopefully we won't. Otherwise, yeah, that's the key level to watch right now, because the trend is not our friend right now for Bitcoin because of the key levels that were rejected. We didn't get to go much higher. The momentum on Bitcoin is slowing down massively. And look, guys, I'll start with comparing it with Ethereum, and I'm going to talk quite a bit about Ethereum. But the main thing is, I don't really believe the correction on Bitcoin is only to be blamed on Ethereum. Yes, there is part of that going into Ethereum and altcoins, because some of the money has been flowing into those coins. But in my opinion, I would just say that, it's more about stocks correcting and the overall bullish situation, that the whole bull market is slowing down a little bit, at least for Bitcoin because of USD inflows. But that doesn't mean that money can't flow out of Bitcoin and go into alts. But that's probably a lot bigger, because if you remember, some guys were saying, oh, gold is going down because of Bitcoin going up, and or cryptocurrencies going up in general. But I do believe, yes, that played a role, but the bigger role was played by yields going up. So gold is inversely correlated with yields. So when yields go up, gold goes down. Okay? Or at least with real yields. I don't want to go too deep into this, but for example, what I mean is that there are much stronger forces than Ethereum sucking a lot of money from Bitcoin into it. Yes, that is definitely something that is a bit of a catalyst in the current situation, because we have seen Ethereum rally massively. Ethereum has doubled since pretty much the end of March. So in 5-6 weeks, Ethereum doubled versus Bitcoin, or a little bit more, probably went up 110%. And the truth is that maybe it does slow down. Okay, so we have hit a key first area. Now my actual area was 0.068, but I didn't have that pivot right here. I didn't have the monthly, the R3 monthly. We have broken above the R3 yearly, so that's not there, but the price could come all the way down here and then bounce. Oops, I'm sorry about that. Now this area was broken very easily. Initially, there was a little dip on the R3. Now this area that I had talked about in the previous video about Ethereum didn't really hold, so it just exploded. So far, Ethereum has been in a very healthy trend. It retested this key area very nicely, this nice trend as well. And the truth is that initially Ethereum tried to have a breakout, but it essentially got stopped because A, the CME futures launch, B, there was very high fees on Ethereum, so there was the rise of the competition of Ethereum, and plus DeFi was rallying for much longer. It rallied in the summer, it rallied then at the beginning of January and the beginning of February, but then we had that massive correction because of all these things coming together, plus Bitcoin had that massive rally because of the Tesla news and everything. So when those news came in, essentially Ethereum didn't manage to hit those targets, so we had that pullback. Essentially that was a trap. We came back to the main trend, which is nicely followed by the 300-day moving average. That was also the point of control for the volume profile. The most traded price level in the history of Ethereum is this one, at least versus Bitcoin. And Ethereum has formed a very nice base versus Bitcoin. but I don't really believe we're gonna come all the way back here ever again. Now, could Ethereum take over Bitcoin? Yes, I do believe the flippening is coming. I do believe that this is possible because of the way new money is coming in. Now, all the new money, which is accelerating, will go into Ethereum. Ethereum also has some major catalysts. It has the EIP 1559, which is coming, which will make Ethereum deflationary. Most things are being built on Ethereum. Most of the demand for Ethereum from DeFi is pretty large. So it has more speculative flows than Bitcoin at this time. And at the same time, the recent hard fork, the recent Berlin hard fork, has made fees a lot cheaper. So now that Ethereum is essentially 2x the price it was, let's say, a few months ago, it also has half the fees they had back then, or maybe even less, which means that Ethereum has a lot more to grow, because there was a bit of a bottleneck when the average Ethereum fee was getting about $30-40. When that was the price, usually Ethereum corrected and it wasn't able to go much higher. But now that we have all the layer 2 solutions, there are so many positive things going for Ethereum. I do believe Ethereum could go much higher from here. So this is potentially just a short-term stop. This is nothing more than that. And in my opinion, it could just explode even higher from here. It might not even take a break. So the actual break that we're having right now in USD terms is coming from outside forces. But when it comes to the actual demand and actual internal force and speculation on Ethereum 2.0, on EIP 1559 and so on, I do believe there's going to be more and more stuff coming, and there are going to be more flows into Ethereum. So again, don't risk too much, because the truth is there are so many risks for Ethereum as well that everyone should be careful, and especially if, let's say, there is a larger correction in USD terms. Right now, things are looking very bullish on Ethereum and other chains as well. I'm going to talk about some of the projects that I currently like, and stuff in general on Ethereum which haven't performed as well so far. I do believe they're going to do pretty well very soon. So another one has been Ethereum Classic. So Ethereum Classic has had this very massive capitulation over the last few months, but now look at this, it's making new highs. It's not even pulling back from this correction because of the Bitcoin pullback, which shows a tremendous amount of strength in this area right now. So to me, Ethereum Classic could come all the way up here or even higher. For now, this is the first target because we have this old support turning into resistance. We have the R3, the pivot right here, plus we have the volume profile point of control in this area. Now you see those wicks, they're not something special, they're just Bittrex being a liquid. But for example, on the last chart that you saw, it was Ethereum versus Bitcoin, but that was this whole chart before it was listed on Binance. But for example, Binance hasn't done this with all charts. There are very few coins that actually show the full history because Binance has merged with CoinMarketCap. Essentially, the Binance bought CoinMarketCap, so now they're integrating those charts into the actual charts when you're looking for the coins, which is a very cool move in my opinion. So this is the first target that I see. Again, Ethereum Classic has been attacked many times. I do believe it's going to get attacked once again in the future, but for now, because of all the speculative flows into Ethereum, people are looking for the cheaper Ethereum. So they are like, why wouldn't I buy the cheaper Ethereum? So they go and buy Ethereum Classic, which is something we have seen many times before with Bitcoin and Bitcoin forks as well. Now Ethereum Classic had dropped 98.5% versus Bitcoin, which is a very, very massive capitulation, and that's why I do believe it has more to go. Now, back then it had that massive rally in 2017, but it didn't even manage to come much higher than those highs. And then in the next phase of the bull market, the last part of the bull market, it didn't really have a big rally up. It was one of the worst performers in that bull market. So far it's up about 450%, 500%, and I do believe that, let's say, another 80% is pretty much enough for me to say that that could be a potential top. Because again, remember, Ethereum Classic got listed on Coinbase here, and it wasn't listed on Coinbase prior to that. So that's a plus too. And also all the attacks have definitely made the capitulation much bigger for Ethereum Classic, and Ethereum Classic is backed by Barry Silbert, who you all know is a big investor, and Grayscale is a massive company. So if Barry holds that coin can potentially do well. And again, you know, the speculation for the cheaper Ethereum Classic, you know, maybe it's a safer version of Ethereum because things get tested first on Ethereum and then on Ethereum Classic. So if something bad happens to Ethereum, then Ethereum Classic could be considered as a backup. Now, I don't think that's a very valid argument, but if the market thinks so, so be it. Now, the next one I want to talk about is Chainlink. And again, guys, I've made loads of videos on these things, not specifically Chainlink, but several other coins for DeFi. So if you want, just go back and check them. I made a very long video on Ethereum. I'm just gonna share the link down below, so you can check that as well. Ethereum versus Bitcoin. I would suggest everyone go and listen to that video because you will get a lot of information from all the things that I shared. So again, I'm talking about stuff that I've shared before. These ideas have been on TradingView, they have been on Twitter, they have been on YouTube and all that. So if you want, just go and check all that, and I trust me, you're gonna get a lot of valuable information, even though the videos might be a bit older. So Chainlink has had at least the biggest bull market versus Bitcoin, even during the bear market. So it was the only coin that did so well versus Bitcoin during that period. So initially that 300-day moving average was very important. Then that turned into resistance. The Chainlink hadn't been able to break above the yearly pivot, but right now, look at this strength. It's breaking straight above it. It's going full on strength. Maybe it does a little pullback right here and then much higher, but I assume that during this breakout, it has probably retested it a bit and then it's gonna go higher. So this old resistance turned into support, then turned into support again. This was the first time after many years that Link, had 80% correction versus Bitcoin. Now it has formed this very nice Adam and Eve double bottom with a higher low here. Very nice. This pattern could just make it go much higher from here, and it's one of the biggest laggers so far. It has even underperformed Ethereum. So in my opinion, if Ethereum keeps doing very well, Chainlink might be doing very well too. So the next one is MKR. MKR has had that very nice full cycle versus Bitcoin that I've talked about several times before. It was one of the coins that actually made a higher high after the bull market, after the 2018 bull market, then failed down. And it's also like one of those coins that have had flat tops. Essentially, they have had equal tops, but every time they had lower lows, and now this situation has been reversing. So first one, we had this one, we went all the way back down, full cycle, and then this turned into support again, and we're having this nice move up. So I do believe MKR could come all the way up there and even higher and make a new all-time high versus Bitcoin. Now the final one is going to be Dogecoin. Dogecoin is one of those coins that have been updated on Binance. They have added the full history, and Dogecoin hasn't even had a pullback at this stage. Like even all those indicators, I'm just going to remove them for now because it's just pointless. There's nothing to see down there. This massive explosion by Dogecoin has been one of the biggest stories of 2021 because of how high it has gone in such a short period of time, more than 100x in just a few months. And I do believe there's a little bit more upside for Dogecoin, at least I'm just gonna check the USD chart and tell you exactly what I think. But the main point is that, first of all, it came all the way back to that all-time high and retested it with that massive wick on Binance right here. That showed insane strength. That was like a little capitulation, a little correction, shook everyone out, and then continues higher. Then we have this very nice level right there, which was resistance for a really long time. That's pretty much, not precisely, but you know, you get the point. You'll never get the exact level. But essentially Dogecoin had that massive pump after having a full cycle versus Bitcoin, same as Maker, just on a different time scale. And then, you know, it started forming this nice pattern right here after Bitcoin popped very nicely from there, and it's now exploding much higher. Usually when coins come and retest the previous all-time highs, they just explode higher, and that's exactly what happened with Dogecoin. And especially after breaking those highs, it's pretty much the same as the all-time high, because that all-time high was many years ago. The supply was totally different, the interest was totally different. Right now Dogecoin was at least way more adopted and spread out, listed on many more exchanges, very well known, lots of influencers, lots of people in Dogecoin. So it's definitely a lot different from back then, and especially the size in USD terms is a lot different as well. So when I look at the USD chart for Dogecoin, I would expect the price to, maybe, I wouldn't say to retest this level, because if we zoom in a little bit, we've already had a little correction right here after testing the all-time high. Now I wouldn't be surprised if it comes down to this level. If there is a correction, for example, if everything corrects, maybe Dogecoin does have a correction because of Bitcoin and then goes higher. But I do believe that 90 cents might be a great target for now, because that's, most people are going to be looking for $1. So potentially the people that are smart are going to start selling a little bit earlier, because most of the dumb money will wait for $1. Or what is going to happen is, after that, maybe after a correction, we do break to $1.50 or maybe even $2. And that's why I think first target would be a little bit below 90 or maybe 89, or if you want to get closer to $1, maybe say 95, but I think that gets a little bit risky. Then I would say wait for a correction and then jump back in. I think that would be potentially the best play for Dogecoin. But for now, that looks great, because when you have those little double tops right here, usually the price, when it comes and breaks above it, it goes much higher. And we have seen it here as well. Like when the price had this double top right here, eventually it came and broke it. Now that was a much larger base. That was a much larger move of sideways, of reaccumulation. That was massive reaccumulation. Whereas this one wasn't really that long. But even though maybe we don't make, let's say, a new high that is 400% higher, like this one, I do expect that, you know, maybe we see the same thing. So going up to 82 cents might be the first one. Then even if you want to just take this pattern and just say this pumped 100%, so let's say a double from here, if that was a double, then we would be talking about 90 cents. So again, it's up to you guys. It's very hard for anyone to tell you where to sell Dogecoin, especially with these conditions, with these crazy market conditions. So I would just say, be careful, don't overinvest, especially after something has moved up so much. Now, I hope this has been educational. I hope you like this stuff. And overall, I would just say both Ethereum Classic and Ethereum have more room to grow. Chainlink as well, DeFi stuff on Ethereum, and eventually that will give its place to other things that hasn't done as well recently. So I wouldn't suggest you capitulate on the stuff that you hold but haven't done as well, but maybe you diversify a little bit. Maybe you do chase momentum to an extent. Again, remember, these are stuff that would play versus Bitcoin, not versus the dollar, because maybe Bitcoin keeps dropping, maybe Bitcoin has a very poor performance as other things take over, because Ethereum taking over would have a very negative impact on Bitcoin, at least on the short-term price. So with all that stuff said, guys, please remember, I'm not your financial advisor. These are not things that you should just follow blindly. This is educational content. This is for people that want to learn stuff. You can follow me on Twitter. You can follow me on TradingView. You can follow me on Telegram, where I have my channel and I put updates daily. I just, same stuff with Twitter and TradingView. Some of the stuff that I share are on TradingView, like I said earlier, because it's a lot faster for me to just put an idea on there. And also another thing that I would just like to say is, guys, please like, subscribe, comment, because it really helps us grow. It's something that I would like to get more feedback from you. So comments are always helpful, even if it's something negative. Okay, I don't take negative criticism badly. I think it's helpful. I think it will help us grow, and I think it will help you enjoy better content as well. So once again, thanks a lot for watching, guys. Be careful out there and good luck. So see you on the next one.